Hey, what's up, guys? I hope you're all having a fantastic day wherever you are. Happy Thanksgiving to all my fellow Canadians. Sorry I haven't been putting out too many videos. I've been pretty busy with my business, working away, just getting some money together for the winter and some upcoming investments and projects. So, been really busy with that. But today I thought I'd speak a little bit about kind of what I see coming in the future. And of course, this is all just kind of my thoughts and where I see things going, and just kind of some bigger picture stuff and why I often talk about Bitcoin and why I'm so passionate about Bitcoin, because I think that a lot of people are overlooking Bitcoin, and that a lot of people pass it off as just, a get rich quick scheme or just some kind of investment, and they're not, people aren't interested in investing and they're too busy to learn about it. So it's often just brushed off and people aren't taking the time to really learn about the technology and what it's about. So this video isn't only about Bitcoin. I know my Bitcoin videos don't get many views. I don't know if that's because of the lack of interest or because of the shadow banning that's going on. I really don't think the powers that be want this information getting out there. So I have a feeling that it has to do with that. But I thought I'd just kind of give you a bigger picture idea of why I'm so excited about Bitcoin and passionate about it, and why I think everyone should be learning about it, and why it's really important to have a little bit of Bitcoin in your wallet. So basically, the way I see this playing out is that we're at the end, or nearing the end of a big cycle, and kind of um, a paradigm, if you will. So there's been the ruling US government for quite some time, and basically I think that empire is coming to its end, and whenever something comes to an end, something new needs to replace it. And I think we are entering a new, very exciting era where the power is going to be more equally distributed. I think that we're ending the era of centralized control and power. I think that's a dying paradigm, and I think this whole COVID narrative and kind of the way that they're really flexing their control, and they've got the masses really manipulated and controlled right now. I think this is the last kind of ditch effort on their part to really try and roll out this globalist plot to just have absolute control over everyone and get everyone obeying their commands, and just being little slaves to their slave masters. So I think this is a dying paradigm. I don't think that it's a sustainable foundation to build our society on, where it's all about control and power and all of that. I really have a lot of hope for the future, and I think that is coming to an end. And I think it's technology actually that's going to help liberate us from just these crazy times where it's all about power and control, and the government's kind of having all of the resources, these elite families having access to all of the resources and power and all of that, and then the rest of us, they're just giving us less and less. And they really, what they do is they kind of suss it out, and they see what the minimum amount they can give us is to basically keep us from organizing and rising up, and that. So they really play with that kind of that number, that threshold, where they can find where people will have enough and start rising up and acting out in that. So I think a lot of that right now is what's going on. They want to collapse a lot of the businesses, so people don't have self-reliance. They don't have a way to provide for their own family. They want people relying on the government. And you can kind of see, especially with the younger folks, a lot of left-leaning people, where their only hope is to place all this faith in the government, that the government's going to save them, that if we just have more regulation, more control, and we have all these laws in place that are going to protect us, and all this faith in the government. Well, I think the way that ends is that the governments are actually, they're corrupt. So it's not built on truth, and and good principles. It's built on control and authority and power and all that. And I think that is a dying paradigm. And I think basically, if you look at the numbers, all of the governments are actually bankrupt. And so I think how this is going to play out is that the governments have made all these promises, and essentially we have the biggest kind of bubble in the population graph of the boomers who are all entering retirement now, and they've all been made all these promises by the government that they're going to be paid out pensions, and that all their retirement investments are worth all this money, and that basically there's all these social programs in place that are going to take care of them, medical systems and all of that, and that their dollars are going to, that they've worked so hard for their whole life, that the dollars are going to take care of them and afford their health care and their cost of retirement and all that. And I think what we're going to see is with the way it's going, with the way the governments are printing these currencies into the ground. And if you don't understand this, look back through some of my previous videos. I explain how they're doing this and why the currency is being debased and how we know that. And I look at some of the charts that prove that. And so look back to those videos if you don't understand how that's going on. But basically, what they're doing, they're destroying the currency, which is destroying the purchasing power of our dollars. And it's going to make it really hard for these people to retire when they realize that even if they do, if they're fortunate enough to get paid out of these pensions, these promises that they were fed, well, it's all in these government currency terms. So, they promise that you're going to get $2,000 a month for retirement, or $3,000. But what people fail to realize is that with inflation, because of all the money creation that they're printing right now, $3,000 really isn't going to buy you much. And you can see that reflected in the price of homes and stuff like that, or the price of different assets like gold, or collector's cars, or fine art, or stuff like that. The price of all of these true assets are just rising at a very alarming rate. And really what that is it's the dollar purchasing power losing its value. So that's what's going on, and people aren't going to be able to afford retirement, and the governments are all also highly indebted, and they're basically bankrupt. And I don't think they're going to be able to make good on all of their obligations, their liabilities, these promissory agreements they've made with the general public to pay out these pensions and to provide different social services and all that. And I think once this all comes to light over the next 5 to 10 years, more and more people are going to start waking up that the government is actually, they don't have our best interests at hand, that they are just a bunch of greedy, selfish individuals who are trying to go after all the wealth, the assets, and it's just a big power grab. And they want to increase their authority and their rule over us. So you can see that going on right now, telling us all to wear masks and how to behave, and that telling us that we can't see our families for Thanksgiving here, and we have to limit the size of groups that we're interacting with. This is all, like, who are they to have this kind of authority over us? And of course they have the general public believing it's all in the name of safety. So they don't even need to roll this out by by using force. So that's the other way that they kind of extend their control, is by using violence. And that's the way the nation state has always extended their control and flexed their power. That's how they have people fearful and obeying their slave masters, because they threaten them with jail, or they threaten them with guns or violence. And so people are in a bunch of fear of that. But now they don't even need to use the violence. They have people so fearful that they tell you that if you don't obey them, you're going to die from this deadly pandemic, which clearly isn't that deadly. If you look at the numbers, very few people are dying. The numbers are highly skewed, as always. We know the governments like to do this with their numbers to kind of over exaggerate and make the case for whatever their narrative they're trying to push at the time. But I think basically what's going to happen is, because none of this is built on a foundation of truth and of good intention, I think it will fail. I don't think that it will last. I think we're entering a new time, a new era where basically through technology, through decentralization, and that I think that is built on honesty and trust, and we're taking it out of the hands of the individual because people are inherently corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and so people will inherently, if they're given too much power, they will start to use that to their own advantage and act selfishly and that. So we need to take the trust aspect out, the human factor out of it, because we can't trust humans, and we've seen that time and time again. And sure, we'd like to believe we can, but the reality is it just doesn't work. People do corrupt once they get too much power. So now with something like Bitcoin, where we put the trust into a computer algorithm or a computer program where it's completely auditable. We don't have to rely on a centralized authority to give our power away to a centralized authority for stuff like our money, controlling our money system, which is at the basis of our entire system. And then when we give that power away to central banking, then basically what they're doing is they're using it to their advantage and stealing all of our wealth. They are counterfeiting the money, which is unreal. If you or I were to counterfeit the money and print it, we would go to jail for a long time. But of course, it's always the double standard of it's fine for them to print the money. It's fine for them to kill and steal and rob and sell drugs and all of this. They can produce alcohol and sell it to the public. They can run casinos and gambling operations. That's fine. They can grow tobacco and sell it to the general public. But if you or I were to try any of those above things, we would go to jail for a long time. So it's just a complete double standard. You can see that this is a criminal organization. If you start to dig any deeper, they are gangsters at the highest level. And now it has turned into a globalist organization. It's not just one country. So basically right now we're seeing them flex their control, and we can see that it is an orchestrated attack on our liberties and our freedoms. And I just don't think it's sustainable. I don't think it'll last. And I think that this is why I like to talk about Bitcoin a lot, because I think Bitcoin is the gateway to our liberation. It's the first time we've been able to separate money from state, and the main way they're able to control us is through the money and through constant debasement of the currency and through taxation and basically forced extortion of our wealth. And I'm all for having common pots of money that we pay for different social infrastructure or programs with, but at the same time, I think it needs to be 100% auditable, and we need to agree on that. I don't want to be paying to the federal government who's deciding which industries they subsidize, which are often corrupt and harmful to the general public. And they're making these decisions without us actually having any say in it. And it's our money that they're extorting from us and then basically giving out to these corrupt corporations. So Bitcoin is a way where it's fully auditable. Anyone can audit all the transactions. And I think that's why the government's fearful of it, because they know if we went to a money system like that, that basically they couldn't get away with the crimes that they are getting away with today. It'd be much harder because it's highly traceable. And I think that through decentralization, basically there's no way that they're going to be able to stop Bitcoin. And I think everyone that's placing their faith in these governments is they're going to essentially, in the long run, they're going to see the pitfalls of that, and they're going to see basically the consequences of giving their power away to these governments and relying on them and giving their trust and their faith into these governments and saying, oh, I don't need to worry, the government will look after me, they'll take care of me, they're going to have some new laws that will protect me and all this. And in the end, they're going to realize that the government's not there for them. They're basically destroying their currency. A lot of the systems will implode as these governments go bankrupt, and a new system will emerge now that we have a hard money like Bitcoin, where the people that get into Bitcoin, especially earlier on, will be acquiring more and more wealth. And it's for once, basically, we have a form, it's a savings technology. And for once, you can actually, as you earn money and you store it in Bitcoin, you will be gaining purchasing power. So the value of your currency will be gaining and things will be getting cheaper and cheaper for you. And then the people that didn't get into Bitcoin and just kind of brushed it off and got lazy and didn't take the time to learn about the technology, they're going to be at the mercy of inflation and currency debasement, and things are going to get really expensive for them. And basically we'll have a repeat of stuff like we've seen in Venezuela and some of these other countries, where basically the currency implodes and the purchasing power is completely destroyed. And then a lot of those people will become envious and jealous and resentful of the people who bought Bitcoin and other currencies, maybe like gold or silver. And I think basically we'll reach a point, the flippening, they like to call it, where essentially the whole system inverts and all of the big smart money starts going into Bitcoin because it's actually appreciating and it's gaining in purchasing power, where all these other currencies are losing their purchasing power. And there becomes a point where it just doesn't make any sense for anyone to bother holding these government currencies. And then at that point, we'll have a power shift where the people who will hold all of the economic power will be people who are holding Bitcoin. And I think we'll have slowly but surely we'll have more and more corporations announce that they're holding Bitcoin, and we'll have countries start to announce that they're adopting and embracing Bitcoin. And I think that's how this whole thing changes. And the beautiful part about that is that it's no longer controlled by a centralized power. It's not like these corrupt elite families who have been running the banking system for centuries are able to have complete economic control over us, and they're not able to just print the money out of thin air to acquire all the assets they want. They're actually going to have to work for it and earn it like the rest of us, and that's going to change the game completely. The rules have changed, and I think we're going to have a major transfer of power. And it's the beauty about that is when it's decentralized, it's not focused in one country. Bitcoin is an international borderless currency, our savings technology. And that, I think, once that starts to emerge, it's going to offer us all kinds of new opportunity, because we can decentralize anything. And I think we'll eventually figure out through technology how to decentralize our social media platforms, the way in which we share, or all the mediums which we share, stuff like Twitter, how we're sharing through what we type, our words, stuff like YouTube, how we're sharing with our video, and all of these different mediums that we share that they're now controlling. We're seeing how they're using it and controlling it through the deplatforming of certain people that are speaking up. But I think technology will offer us liberation in the sense that we'll be able to essentially decentralize all that in the future. I think we'll be able to decentralize voting and government and all of that, and that will essentially lead to our liberation. And I think all of those that placed all their faith in the governments, that will be a dying system, and there will be a point where people look at how well everyone's doing that is embracing the new systems, the new way, the new decentralized nature of things, where power is shared amongst many people, and it's not corrupt. There's no way to counterfeit the money, and the savings technology essentially offers you a way to basically prices are always getting cheaper. And what a beautiful thing when we're always used to things getting pushed further and further out of reach, and it becoming harder and harder for your average people to just make the basic needs met. Asset prices are just getting pushed out of reach, and the masses are being fed this lie that that's all from capitalism and all that. But the truth is, we don't have capitalism. Free market capitalism is when you let the markets decide the value of things. That is the best way. It's the best system we have. I know many, probably if you haven't studied too intensely or too deeply these systems, you probably believe that capitalism is the root of a lot of these problems, but in fact it isn't. That's what they want you to believe, because they want to continue this kind of corporate socialism or whatever, where they can just print the money and they give it out to themselves. They give it out to the large corporations. So they're counterfeiting the money, and it's not a level playing field, because you and I actually have to work for the money and all that. So I think looking forward, the future is bright. I think it's times are changing fast, and I think it's technology that is going to liberate us. And I think it's a new paradigm that's emerging, where we will realize we don't need these overlords. We can digitize a lot of it. We can streamline it. We can implement new systems where we can basically, through technology, we can gather mass amounts of information, and we can decide what's best for the people, the general public. And we can put our democratic voting on there if we like, and we can put our money on there, and we can put all of the way in which we spend the money that we decide to collectively contribute. We can decide how we spend that, and we can fully audit it, and we can streamline everything. And I think it makes for a very bright future. So I'm really optimistic about the future, and I know these times are tricky for a lot of people, and a lot of people are focusing on the negative, but I think it's, even though as bad as it is, I think it has to get worse before it gets better. But I think this is what will lead to us basically being forced to embrace a new system, because this system is broken, and we're going to see how it fails and how it doesn't really serve the people. And then I think that is what will lead people to embrace a new system, whether they want to or not. There'll be a point where they're just going to have to follow or be left behind. And so I think that's the way the future is going to unfold. I think the masses will probably follow a lot of this collapsing system right to the end, and they'll kind of learn the hard way where that leads them, and then they'll kind of see the other people who took the time to learn about these new technologies and who made the efforts to embrace decentralization and to look after themselves and not place all their faith in another power, an external power like the government or something like that. They're going to see how those people are actually thriving way more, and I think it'll be more attractive, and there'll be a point where more and more come to the other side, and this dying paradigm of control and power that the governments have been forcing on us for so many years will eventually die and fade out, and we'll have a new system emerge. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Let me know in the comments what you think. I know that was a bit of a long one, but I do think it's very exciting times, and I think it's really up to us whether we're going to embrace this or not, or if we're going to continue to keep giving our power away and having all this faith in the government. Personally, that's not for me. I'm all about I want to interact with people that are empowering themselves and want to trade and do business honestly and openly, and to create prosperity and abundance for ourselves, our families, and our communities, and quit giving our power and our money and our prosperity away to these corrupt elite families. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I hope you guys see the optimism in the future, and that we can all start embracing these new and emerging technologies and ways of being, and ways that we can interact in the world. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you haven't already, like the video, helps me get it out there. Subscribe to the channel, share it with some friends and family. It would really help me to grow the channel a little bit, and I will see you guys in the next video.